In 2009, Robert Zemeckis was finishing off the motion capture spectacle of A Christmas Carol, starring Jim Carrey. He walked into the Disney offices with another ambitious pitch. He wanted to remake Yellow Submarine, transforming the Beatles' psychedelic masterpiece with cutting-edge technology for a new generation. It was going to be revolutionary. It was going to be magical. So much so it was announced at Disney's inaugural fan event D23 later that year. Not only that, to build even more momentum, the movie was going to be released in 2012 to coincide with the Olympic Games in London. But it never happened. The project that promised to sail the Beatles into the digital age sank before it ever left the harbour. To understand why this groundbreaking remake sunk to the murky depths, we need to journey back to where it all began. In 1968, the Beatles are at their creative peak, but they're also contractually trapped. United Artists demands one more film as part of a 3-film deal, and the Fab Four have no real interest in being as directly involved with another live-action film like Help, which they weren't entirely happy with when it was completed. They agreed to an animated project, which required less of their direct involvement. While the band wasn't initially enthusiastic, they eventually contributed 4 new songs and a live-action cameo appearance. Can I ask if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. I really appreciate the support. The film was directed by animation producer George Dunning and produced by United Artists and King Features Syndicate. Yellow Submarine crafted something that would shatter every preconception about what an animated movie could be. What emerged was a visual revolution. Pop art surrealism exploded across the screen in ways that had never been attempted. The Sea of Time became a flowing dreamscape. The Blue Meanies transformed into genuinely menacing symbols of oppression. But the real genius was how the Beatles' music became the storytelling engine. Each song transformed into a narrative moment. Beneath the whimsical surface, Yellow Submarine carried weight that children's animation rarely dared to embrace. John Lasseter, the mind behind many Pixar movies, said this film took animation to new heights and proved it was something for more than just kids and families. Within the story, the Blue Meanies weren't just cartoon villains, they were enemies of creative expression. Defeated not by violence, but by love, music. It was countercultural commentary disguised as family entertainment. Yellow Submarine proved that animation could be sophisticated, subversive, and attract new audiences. It opened doors for adult animation and shaped the work of Terry Gilliam in animation for Do Not Adjust Your Set and Monty Python's Flying Circus, particularly the Eleanor Rigby sequence, as well as the rock vignettes for ABC and similar-looking animation in early seasons of Sesame Street and The Electric Company. What was supposed to be just a final contractual obligation had accidentally become a cultural earthquake, one that would echo for years to come. But what exactly was this psychedelic masterpiece about? The story begins in Pepperland, a paradise where music and color reign supreme, protected by Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's a world of pure joy until the Blue Meanies arrive. These aren't your typical cartoon villains. The Blue Meanies despise music, color, and happiness itself.
Today, Pepperland goes blue.
They attack Pepperland with pointed fingers, apple bonkers, and snapping Turks, systematically draining the world of everything that makes life worth living. It's war, disguised as whimsy. Only old Fred escapes in the Yellow Submarine, sailing through the Sea of Time to find the one force that can save Pepperland, the Beatles themselves. What follows is a journey through impossible landscapes, the Sea of Holes, the foothills of the headlands, the Sea of Monsters, each more surreal than the last. As the Beatles navigate these strange worlds, each location becomes a stage for their music. Eleanor Rigby transforms into a meditation on loneliness in a desolate landscape. When I'm 64 becomes a tender moment of reflection. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds explodes into pure visual poetry. The climax isn't a traditional battle, it's a musical revolution. The Beatles don't defeat the Blue Meanies with violence, but with love, music, and the power of creative expression. Even the chief Blue Meanie is transformed, discovering that he too can find joy in music and color. It's a story about art as resistance, about how creativity can triumph over oppression, and about the transformative power of music. Wrapped in psychedelic imagery and Beatles songs, it delivered a hopeful message: love really is all you need. Fast forward to 2009, Disney had just formed a partnership with Robert Zemeckis' Image Movers Digital, and the director was riding high on motion capture innovation. He'd brought us the photorealistic wonder of Polar Express, the dark fantasy of Beowulf, and the heartwarming magic of A Christmas Carol. Now he wanted to tackle what was seen as a unique animation challenge. The announcement came with all the fanfare Disney could muster at the inaugural D23 Expo on September 11, 2009. Disney and Apple Corps Limited officially unveiled the remake. They'd even cast voices. Peter Serafinowicz, who has appeared in movies like Shaun of the Dead and Guardians of the Galaxy, was Paul McCartney. Dean Lennox Kelly, known for Shameless, was the voice of John Lemon. Cary Elwes, who starred in The Princess Bride and Saw as George Harrison, and Adam Campbell, who starred in Harper's Island as Ringo Starr. Even actor David Tennant, known for Doctor Who and Fright Night, had been linked to be the voice of the main Blue Meanie for the remake. This seemed like magic on paper. You had the Beatles' timeless catalogue music that spoke to both baby boomers and their grandchildren. You had Zemeckis' cutting-edge motion capture technology that could bring unprecedented realism to fantastical worlds. And you had Disney's marketing machine, ready to introduce a new generation to Pepperland. The timing seemed perfect too. With the 2012 London Olympics approaching, a Beatles-centered animated spectacle could ride the wave of British cultural celebration. Zemeckis envisioned using the actual Beatles recordings, the authentic tracks that had made the original so powerful. But this wasn't going to be a simple update. The differences were considerable. Where the original was hand-drawn, anarchic, and deliberately surreal, Zemeckis' version would be photorealistic and digitally precise. The Beatles themselves would be motion-captured actors, not stylized cartoon 2D avatars. The psychedelic landscapes would be rendered in cutting-edge 3D, transforming the original's flat pop art aesthetic into immersive digital worlds. But there was a problem brewing in Zemeckis' digital paradise. Motion capture technology, for all its technical wizardry, was developing a reputation. Critics and audiences were starting to notice something unsettling about those photorealistic characters. They looked almost human, but not quite, and were being labeled as creepy. The uncanny valley had become Zemeckis' unwelcome signature, and this was creating a barrier for movie-going audiences. The warning signs were already flashing. A Christmas Carol, despite Disney's massive $200 million budget, had underperformed at the box office, with Disney taking an estimated $50 million write-off on the film. The motion capture magic that had seemed revolutionary was starting to feel more like a liability.
Humbug.
Then came the corporate guillotine. In 2010, Disney made a brutal decision to part company with Image Movers Digital entirely. The expensive motion capture experiments weren't paying off, and the studio was hemorrhaging money on technology that audiences seemed to actively reject. The final nail in the submarine's coffin came in 2011 with Mars Needs Moms, a catastrophic box office failure that lost Disney over $100 million.
Welcome to Mars. My name is Gribble. This is Two Cats.
The film's spectacular failure sent shockwaves through the industry, effectively killing any remaining appetite for expensive motion capture animation. By 2011, Zemeckis himself was ready to abandon ship. In interviews, he declared the Yellow Submarine project officially dead. The remake that was going to introduce the Beatles to a new generation had become another development project to sink like the Titanic. But what exactly did we lose in Yellow Submarine 2012? Thanks to leaked development material, we got glimpses of what might have been. Motion capture footage surfaced on YouTube in 2011, uploaded by an Image Movers team member. There was test footage of a Blue Meanie, concept art showing photorealistic Beatles navigating digital Pepperland, and test renders that revealed the differences between Zemeckis' vision and the original's hand-drawn 2D version. Watching the footage and seeing the still imagery is fascinating. It shows a new interpretation for this classic film and the direction it could have gone in had it been released to the movie-going public. The project could have introduced the Beatles to a generation that had never experienced their music in a visual context. The remake was set to incorporate the 16 Beatles songs and recordings from the original motion picture, potentially creating a gateway for young audiences to discover the band's broader catalogue. The remake also might have proven that motion capture technology could handle surreal, psychedelic storytelling pushing the medium beyond the realistic human dramas it had been confined to. If successful, it could have opened doors for more experimental animated films targeted at adult audiences.
What's the matter, John Love? Blue meanies?
But perhaps most intriguingly, a successful Yellow Submarine might have changed Zemeckis' entire trajectory as a director. The original Yellow Submarine stands as a product of its time. Anarchic, inventive, boundary-pushing. It was lightning in a bottle born from an obligation, but ultimately delivered something fresh and truly original. Perhaps some things shouldn't be remade. Maybe the medium wasn't ready for Zemeckis' vision. Motion capture has evolved since the early noughties. So perhaps Yellow Submarine 2012 was a product of its time. And maybe the Beatles' magic was always meant to live in that hand-drawn world where anything could happen, defying logic. In the end, we still have that unique trippy adventure from 1968, and that's all we really need. Some voyages are perfect just the way they are, and there is absolutely no need to repeat them.
What's the matter, John Love? Blue meanies?
Newer and bluer meanies have been sighted in the vicinity of this theatre. There's only one way to go out.
How's that?
Singing!
Bon voyage.
Live in a yellow submarine.